G'day, I'm Ash, welcome back to Tank Mechanic Simulator, and in today's video we're taking a look at the Sherman. Well, we've already made 4 Sherman videos, but there is one very iconic vehicle left. We've got the Jumbo, we've got Early, we've got D-Day, we've got Med Production. There is one left, and that is the T-34 Calliope, or Calliope. I don't know how to pronounce that one, let me know in the comments down below. But today's video, we're going to be primarily restoring this particular vehicle in this episode, as it's the last tank I need to unlock. Now, when I mean unlock, this is the last vehicle I actually have to restore, if I can actually get up the ladder. Man, these things are just so annoying. Come on. There we go. Essentially, this is a rocket artillery support vehicle. Ignore the World War I tank over there. Little Willie is fine. He can do his thing. But this, while it is just a regular hodgepodge of parts, it's really the launcher that is the most exciting thing about the vehicle. Now, I'm going to get into the history of the vehicle while restoring it. But make sure you subscribe for some more Tank Mechanic Simulator content. Ultimately, I'd like there to be more tanks to restore, but we're going to start off by derusting the vehicle, and now we'll get into the logistics and procurement. The USA realised they didn't have any rocket motor vehicles like Russia or the Soviet Union at the time with their fancy Katyushas, and they decided to trial a new version and have a bunch of fun. Now, I need this lamp. Come here. Gotta have perfect lighting, you see. Oh, turn it on, you bastard. This thing is essentially just a mid-war like Sherman with just a rocket launcher on top. But essentially, in 1943, the idea of a rocket launcher wasn't new, and they wanted some advantage over the standard mortar or howitzer. And the launcher system can, have massive amounts of high explosive ammunition and shoot them at further distance with a shorter time and greater physiological impact. Normal artillery, you have to tow it and do other things, so the idea of having a self-propelled vehicle was actually a necessity in a way. And, Soviets showed the best utilization of this weapon with the Katyushas, having a whole bunch of them fire at a designated target at once, and then, having basically minimal accuracy loss with a full area saturation of fire. Pulling everything out of the turret, and now I'm just going to basically pull everything out of the inside of the vehicle now. We're almost ready to start stripping down, although there are various things we need to do. Now, in a typical restoration, you would document everything, you'd separate everything into smaller components, so turret goes off, engine goes off, turret ring and turret components would all go out. The drivetrain would then go out and be restored as a separate thing. And then you'd come together the piece at all. Now, some pieces in this game can't be restored or can't be sandblasted, and some of the tools and things on the top can't be repaired either. So it's a bit weird, but I guess it gets the job done. Now, this giant inspection panel under here is really an interesting piece. I didn't think they had such a massive component or a door at the bottom of the vehicle. I guess it's not really something you need protected in a World War II vehicle, but still, look at the size of that. We're actually using the manhole inspection pit, which this game sorely lacks. I kind of wish there was a mini game for when you'd pull off the turret and pull off the engine. There's massive gantries above the vehicles, as you see here in the back, but just take off the horn and various other bits and pieces here. Now, I have restored 4 other Shermans. So I'm going to make this, try and make this a bit shorter and make it a little more interesting. But for what it was, Victor Hawkins had a rocket mount on the Sherman with 60 tube launchers that made 4.5-inch M8 rockets, and this experimental tank went on to get the designation T-34, and the troops named it Calliope, which was the name of a steam organ that had a similar look. So, kind of looks like an organ when it's fired. Now, as you can see, painting reveals that, some parts need to be removed. And some rusty parts I will get refurbished, but we're not going to wait on that process. I don't have another spare Calliope sitting around, or Calliope, and as a result I'm just going to have to buy the remaining parts that I need, and it's going to be a little bit costly, but for the most part, well, we've gone down to bare metal on the turret and the hull, we've stripped down every other major component, we're going to repair all those components, and then we're also going to prime and paint the hull and the turret exterior, as well as the interiors. But the game just kind of like blanket you and just allows you to paint the whole entire thing instead of doing you got to paint certain sectors or something. It just paints the whole entire vehicle in one sort of progress bar. Now, obviously the US Ordnance Department had a series of other projects with other rocket vehicles and various other things. That's not to say that the M3 gun, that was a 73mm tank gun, that was capable of firing very efficient ammunition, wasn't good. It's just that it was unable to handle mass waves of assaulting enemies, and particularly not very good at entrenched and basically entrenched strongholds, and not as precise as traditional artillery. While the rockets can cover a bigger area in less time with explosive and shrapnel saturating the target in seconds, the rockets also had a psychological impact on the enemies due to the howling sounds that the Calliope launcher made. I'm just going to make this while we wait for repairs. Waiting for some parts. I mean, Little Willie is going to take some time to restore at this rate if we're only doing 1 or 2 parts per episode, but I've already restored this, I think, and I just want to see if I can burn a hole in the steel. I should be able to. No, not a thing. Okay, rats. Right, now we're on to the standard assembly of the engine and its assembly. An aircraft engine with a massive reduction gearbox that handles the high torque that this engine puts out. But we're going to get into super fast build mode here in a second because the engine is quite time consuming. In fact, the recording for the engine alone was 25 minutes. So yeah. Engine is now complete. Now we've got to go on to the more interesting part of the turret. Because it's an earlier war Sherman, it does have some very interesting features. The mantlet is also a weird composite structure rather than being a solid sort of one shape. It looks like the modelers have done a good job of modeling the barrel and the assembly, but the interesting part about this vehicle only comes from its T-34 launcher, which we're going to be installing here shortly. It just seems like we're installing it all in one piece, though. There are a couple of launcher arm C brackets and what appears to be return springs. Got some antenna wires. What else is here? The launcher frame is off. Okay, we've got the rocket launchers on the top there. That's it. For such a unique variation, the rest of the vehicle is basically the same as a mid-war Sherman with just a couple of modifications. It does have a radio. There's the top tubes and the other launcher on the side. Got the wires for the firing and the detonators, which aren't really modelled, but there you go. And you use the gun to elevate the rockets there. Huh. Anyway, we've got the rest of the interior of the turret now to sort of figure out. Hatches, various other things. But anyway, as I was saying, the M8 rockets on this are really, really cool. Like, their faster fire rate allows for a volley of rockets to be fired in rapid succession, or you can have a slower fire rate. As far as I can tell, at least. That's what Tanks Encyclopedia is telling me. So I'm just summarising in a nutshell here. Well, the launcher assembly weighed 140 pounds, or 835 kilos, was comprised of 60 tubes. These tubes were plastic and mounted to upper bank of 36 tubes with 2 side-by-side banks, 12 below it, and 1 on each side of the elevation arm attached to the gun, as we saw earlier. Maximum range of about 4 kilometers. Individually, these rockets were highly inaccurate, but a barrage weapon, very, very, very effective. Now, we've installed the entire inside of the mantlet there. Periscope controls, we've got a telescope, we've got a cannon cradle, and various other things too. Now, the rockets were loaded at the back of the launcher, and a crew member would have to stand on the tank's engine deck and slot them in one by one. Several other variants. I believe there's also a heavier one. T-34E2 was identical to E1, but had an improved firing system. We don't have that one in game. We have the earlier M3A4 pattern mantlet, which, you know, allowed for the retain its original elevation range. Now, what's fascinating about this vehicle is that the Calliope had a particularly interesting nickname. There was other vehicles with multiple rocket launchers, the T-40 and the M17, named the Whiz-Bang, but further development didn't really occur until later after 1945. Now, the Germans knew these vehicles were prize targets, so they stayed at the back of one pack. One of my best friends was a driver of this tank. One day, the tank and all the other standard Shermans went down the road unscathed, but the Germans had been waiting for when the Calliope came along. The Germans opened up with a 20mm anti-aircraft gun, and my friend had his head blown off. And that was an account from Joe E. Lamb. Glenn Lamb commanded a M4A 375mm named Homecoming. That also had the word Persuader painted on the main gun. That was his live account. Anyway, we've got the rest of the vehicle, restore, and you can enjoy my new song, Alpha Strike. Few final touches now. Hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of music. I tend to not fill these with too many time jumps, but the unfortunate reality of this is it's just another Sherman. And so while I'm going through the list, I'm making sure I've got absolutely 100%. Look, I've missed a tow rope bracket. Look at this tiny little detail that I've missed. There are certain things that this game does well. And now that I've fully actually restored the vehicle, and now we've actually filled it up with oil and water and various other things, it's time to go put this in the paint room, as we're going to just have a look at what we can do. And obviously this game, you know, I'd love to see more vehicles in the game at some point, but the reason I've been putting this one off is just I just haven't felt like playing it. And today I just sat down and was like, you know what, let's make it and we'll do it. Now, I don't like the painting in this game. I find it particularly awkward. After a bit of tweaking, I found that I can just paint it like this. As for decals, I don't like the way that the system works. It's a bit finicky, and I'm unsure what to put on where, is because I don't really know what the markings are supposed to look like, so I tend to avoid those. But I'm happy with that kind of, you know, olive drab camouflage. I've looked at several examples of other Calliopes, and I can't really find a solution. So we're going to replace the Goliath. There we are, Steam achievement. We have just restored the last vehicle that I needed to restore. And look at that cute boy. What a little darling of a thing. Anyway, we're going to go put this away. Actually put him back into the museum. We're going to put him, where's the Sherman? There he is. Okay, after managing to find out the button where he comes, he is now in the slot in the warehouse. There's an extra 6 slots you get. And now we have completed every single Sherman, and this playlist is now complete. We've done every single tank available to us in-game. And this is the supply and logistics DLC or something along those lines. We've got an early Sherman, we've got the D-Day Sherman, we've got the late production model. You've also got the specialised heavy model, which is the Jumbo, and now we have the final vehicle in that list. It feels good to restore this. Essentially, it was an hour and a half recording that I've cut down into about, at this point, 16 minutes. So, forgive me, but a lot of things in the Shermans have been the same, and there's a good look at all of them. So, thank you very much for watching today's video. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.